Anthony Melchiori, shalom.
Shalom, my friend. Shalom, Zika Zint, Mazel Tov, and everything else.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
All right. Hey, welcome. I, of course, Glenn Hausman with the one, the only, the incredible Anthony Melchiori. Anthony, I'm excited today because we're going to be talking in just a little while to the CEO of Dan Hotels out of Israel, which is why I'm going full Jew today. Got my Yisrael football jersey on. I'm very excited about this.
You look good in that color. I like it. We have similar clothes on today. You look very handsome, my friend.
Thank you.
So what does it say on the jersey? Because I can't read it.
I can't read it too well too. I'm having trouble reading it backwards, but we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that later. But I will say this: the Dan Hotel Panorama back there. I stayed there when we got my kids bar mitzvah in Jerusalem, so I'm really excited about this. I feel a kinship not just with the country, but with the hotel company and all of that kind of good stuff today. So excited about that. Anthony, before we get started, I do want to say, hey, thank you folks over there for who've been reaching out to our friends over at Best Buy, bestbuy.com/hospitality. That is your place to be able to get great IT consulting. For example, guests are going to be spending a lot more time in the rooms once they come back full force, and you want the best IT possible for them. So check out bestbuy.com/hospitality to upgrade your hospitality solutions today. Anthony, so good to see you. Are you
good to see you, buddy?
Ready for a fun show? Because we got a special guest coming on before we get to our CEO guest.
I'm ready for a fun show. I'm starting to hear that people are booking travel. I want to travel. I am looking for an excuse to travel. So, so if you have two cockroaches chasing an ant and you need me to commentate, please hire me.
Yeah, I will do commentary on a cockroach chasing an ant. That is how desperate we are to get out of here.
It's so funny because typically I'm so busy traveling that when I do have a speaking gig, I can't take them because I'm just so busy, thank God. And now there are none. So anything that's coming across is online. And I just don't have the same. I mean, I do a few of them, but it's just, dude, we need to get back, brother. We need to get back.
I love the energy of being with people, with doing things. And I did want to say before we bring on our first guest today that I have been challenged, Anthony. You remember that ice bucket challenge from a couple of years back over there? Well, now they've got this brand new challenge where everybody out there, I'm going to be getting hit with the pie in the face for the pie in the face challenge coming up next weekend. I'm going to film this thing. It's going to be out there helping hospitalitycares.org, a great group that's raised over $47,000 so far to help give out grants to help displaced hospitality people. Just like Anthony, we're doing with your hospitality donation challenge. We're going to be doing that with the Pie in the Face challenge. So what I'd like for all of you guys out there to do is let me know what type of pie you would like to have hit my face. So when we film that video, you guys got to have some control over
brick pie, a brick pie.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
Banana cream.
All right. So everybody tell me what kind of pie you want me to be hit in the face with. I'm going to get my kids and wife to shoot that video with me at the end of the week or next weekend. And we'll debut it over here and on Instagram next week and hopefully get some donations for that. All right. Now, before we get to Ronen Nissenbaum, the CEO of Dan Hotels, I can't wait for that conversation. We're going to be bringing on industry consultant, PR guru, and long time friend, Mr. Michael Frenkel, to talk about technology and hospitality. Michael, great to see you, sir.
Good morning, Glenn. Good morning, guys. I want to cast my first vote for Blueberry. So
Blueberry. How about Huckleberry? Huckleberry?
Got to be Blueberry. I want to see it.
All right, we've got banana, cherry, all sorts of choices coming in. I like what you're saying about blueberry. My favorite type of pie, but not in season. I don't know if it's going to taste good or not. I don't know. So we got Michael on today to talk about all the changes that are happening for the next 5-10 minutes or so in technology and hospitality. Michael, you're working with great companies such as Thayer Ventures, which is putting a lot of money behind tech companies in this hospitality business because they feel confident of the future. How do you see the future when it comes to hospitality technology? What is exciting you about some of the things that are coming up on the horizon?
Yeah. So Glenn, Anthony, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. And look, it's obviously there's a world of hurt in the industry right now. Anthony, your impetus to get out and get traveling, everybody wants it, but a lot of players stuck right now. Hotels in trouble. And what we're seeing in the work that I do with Thayer Ventures, a venture capital firm, as well as at Cornell in the Pillsbury Institute for Entrepreneurship, is that there's a ton of money and creativities flowing into innovative new solutions to push the industry forward. And that goes to data, how data is managed for hotels. It goes to how hotels take care of guests, how they clean and manage their hotels. It's a completely different new world. I'd be glad to tell you about some of the concepts that we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Anthony, this is
I'm curious before we back. What is because I'm a little jealous, I think, of your title. What does an entrepreneur in residence do at Cornell?
Well,
I want that title.
You're in Florida right now. If you're supposedly the entrepreneur in residence in upstate,
I'm the entrepreneur at a distance right now, but why not? So so Cornell has a number of different centers affiliated with the university. One of them is the Pillsbury Institute, founded by Lee Pillsbury, sort of magnate and major player in the industry, dedicated specifically to developing talent among young students who are interested, not necessarily so much in the corporate job or even owning or operating a property, but being innovators, right? So starting the next interesting startup, or be it on the tech side or even on the real estate side, to push the industry forward. So one, for example, Anthony, I'll give you a kid named Micah Green, a Cornell student, third year, a few years ago, dropped out of the program with an idea to create a robotic solution for cleaning public spaces at hotels, right? Thereby saving hotels labor costs, helping produce cleaner public spaces, and created this company called MadeBot, right? Won the business pitch competition at Cornell, got some seed money, and now has raised millions of dollars to create essentially a Roomba for cleaning carpets and floors in public spaces in hotels, and being adopted across the industry. So as an entrepreneur in residence, I meet with a lot of these young kids, help them vet their ideas, and hopefully open doors to help them get funded.
Okay, can I go back to Cornell and become a student? And can you help me get some of my ideas funded?
No and yes.
It's so funny because this weekend I actually looked at the master's program. I said, you know what, I'm going to get a master's degree from Cornell. So that was like a goal of mine until I realized I had to be in residence and I can't do it online at all. And I was like, well, I can't live in Cornell. I can't live at Cornell.
Yeah, well, that's why you come south to Sarasota for a few weeks during the winter time. But Anthony, whenever you're ready, I'm glad to hook you up with the right people. I'm sure they would find a lot.
Yeah, I actually work with them. I do a online course called Build Your Personal Brand, and we do some other things. And we're actually doing another course that I think is on hold for a while, but we were working on an operations course called Special Ops, which looking at operations differently. So anyway, I just have an affinity for Cornell and been working with them for years. And every time I do a keynote there, it usually goes from 1 hour to 3 hours because I just love them. Smartest kids on the planet, just amazing.
Absolutely. Great tradition. And, again, that from my perspective, kind of working in the tech and innovation space, right? The fact that they've got this funded institute geared just toward that, right? Helping, for so long, the hotel industry has been lagging behind, right? On technology. You see these big players, the OTAs, the Amazons of the world, kind of imposing their solutions on hotel owners. Well, finally, we've got some advocacy and hopefully some cash flow from within the industry to fund solutions on.
Yeah, I think it's so necessary. I think it's well said. And when we do adopt technology, it's usually pushed on us, and a lot of people adopt the wrong technology in the wrong places. So, and I also want to make one note. Anytime I'm with the Cornell kids, I've never met a more humble bunch of kids. There's a lot of kids from different backgrounds, and just humble. I don't care if they're the rich kid or the kid that just got there on a scholarship. Every time I meet with them, I am overwhelmed by how humble they all are.
Yeah,
smart as hell and question me up the yin yang and won't let me get away with crap, but they're humble.
Well, there's a reason, because they're taught hospitality, right? I mean, they're taught how to interact with people. They're taught about their place in the world. And these kids, in addition to being super smart, and the ones I work with, innovators, they understand what it means to serve, right? They understand what it means to work as parts of teams, and just great reflection on the industry.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Michael, when you're involved with a lot of these companies, what are some of the technologies out there that you think are really going to be inculcated into the hospitality zeitgeist within this next year or so? What are the ones that people are going to really adapt to or adopt in their hotels as owners?
Yeah. So look, I mean, one thing that we see is that while there's all this cash and interest and really great smarts and innovation, there's also a lot of inertia, right? I mean, one space is the PMS space, right? It's been sort of the huge obstacle to hotels really running their business efficiently and effectively for years. You've got startups now such as Muse and Cloudbeds and Apaleo, sort of creating a new environment for PMS systems. So I would say the PMS space, one to watch. Data, right? At the end of the day, it all comes back to data. Who your guest is, what your guest wants, how you communicate with them effectively. And in the field of data, you've got a number of interesting startups coming out. Look, I had a conversation with a management company, right? Bricks and Sticks a couple weeks ago. And their question was, how can we start a SaaS company? How can we start a software service company? Because we've got all this data. It's all in silos from the 80, 100 properties we manage and other properties we own. How can we bring this stuff together, organize it, and create more effective ways of becoming more profitable, efficient in our operations, and taking care of our guests better? So data, huge area, numbers, interesting startup companies, and not just startups, right? Companies like Ideas, Calibri Labs, who have a ton of data and a ton of experience working on bringing this all to the fore. I don't want to monopolize the time, but one of my favorite interesting concepts, I spoke about robotics earlier. We work with a company called Dishcraft Robotics out of Silicon Valley. This is a company that found a way to automate dishwashing in commercial kitchens. So I don't know, Anthony, is there any dishwashing in your past?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know a hotel manager that's not washed the dish.
Everybody in the industry, right, started at one time or another as a dishwasher.
If you don't want, I washed dishes at the houseboat on one night, one shift, the houseboat in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, and the gentleman wasn't available. I had to wash dishes, and then I got stuck washing dishes for a couple of weeks. And I'll tell you something. One of the reasons I may be overly efficient and can do a lot at once is because I can wash dishes. If you can wash dishes with one dishwasher in a very busy Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, you can get a lot done.
There you go. So yeah, so look, I mean, it's a part of our industry. The question is, is it where does it sit right now, right? Where are hotels right now with respect to how they operate back of house? So this company, Dishcraft, has created a robotic arm. So you think about what happens when you bring a dish back, right, to the kitchen. The dishes get bussed back in a bus, and then there are some guys there, that used to be you, right, who lift, scrape, rinse the dish, and load it into a Hobart, where it gets clean, comes out on the other end. They lift it, put it back in something which goes out, right? Nowadays, people are not too crazy about the fact that people are touching and manipulating their dishware or just about anything else, right? It's contactless everything. So Dishware created this robotic arm that essentially performs the lift, rinse, and scrape and load function, produces not only a dish that is cleaned more efficiently, and they've got some stories. I mean, these guys have spent hours with cameras. Maybe you know it too, right? Some of the stuff that gets loaded in Hobarts in kitchens, you don't even want to see it, right? But this arm does the job for you and produces efficiency for hotels, because it enables the dishwasher now to go off and do more productive things in other parts of the hotel, and produce a more sanitary, clean, germ-free dish on the other end, untouched by human hands.
Maybe
right?
they can pick up the room service trays outside all the room service.
Yeah, I mean, you've got robotic solutions.
But how fast can it load as fast as a human?
Seconds faster, right? I mean, and this is one of the interesting things watching these companies, right? They started with a prototype arm, and it took, 25, 26, 27 seconds. Not a great thing. They've got it down, I don't know where it is right now, to 5-6 seconds, right? So it's doing actually faster than people would do standing there. Also eliminating breakage. And as I said, nowadays, right, what you want is a completely clean, sanitary, germ-free, and they've got science behind this, right, to show that it's the cleanest dish possible, untouched by human hands.
And I think you're right. From technology and reporting and information, it's getting back to what baseball was 15 years ago when everybody went to analysis and reports. I know in my own business, I just want reports. I don't need a lot of information. I just want the reports that I need for my specific business. So between technology and reporting, I think reporting, I want to know how efficient that one tomato is. Tomatoes are expensive. Right. I want to know, how am I using that tomato, and that tomato, how many times can I use that one tomato? How many dishes can I use? Should I have different entrees because tomatoes are more expensive, or should I not have any tomatoes? And that's the kind of information I want.
Totally right.
Yeah, I also want to throw in there that a lot of what we're talking about here is going to help owners save money on labor costs. We're in an environment right now. Please check back our show from last Wednesday when we talked to the CEO and the chairman of the AHOA organization. We talked a little bit about what's going to happen with minimum wage. No matter what, it's going to be going up, and hoteliers are going to be looking for some of these solutions to help them keep labor costs down where they don't affect customer service.
Yeah, and too long in our business, one of the reasons a lot of owners get bad raps is because they're making decisions on a feeling, on emotion. They're not making decisions on information. And that's the biggest problem in our industry.
Absolutely. And you see, Glenn, to your point, another old friend of ours, right, Raj Trivedi, right, former CEO of La Quinta. I know you've had him on the show.
On Wednesday. To return to us Wednesday.
Just, look, here's this guy, lifelong hotel guy, worked his way up the corporate ladder, real estate guy, deal maker. What's he doing? Starting a contactless check-in company for hotels, right? Thayer Ventures raised $175 million from big players and big investors. Finally, it feels like the big guys in the industry are starting to get the message, right? Innovation, technology, and making everybody's, as Anthony said, more efficient, more transparency, more data for owners and operators. It's one of the big ways we come out of this thing in the months ahead.
Excellent. So any final thoughts before we wrap up, Michael?
I don't think so. Glenn, I appreciate you having me as your warm-up Jew before you bring on the CEO of Dan Hotels. Always something I'm glad to do.
Well, you worked the Borscht Belt in the Catskills, didn't you? That's a good one.
I got a million of them, Anthony. I got a million.
Hey, did you ever go to the Concord Hotel, Michael?
Oh, the Concord Hotel. There's a plaque to me next to the pancake station at the Concord Hotel.
We're going up to Resorts World Monticello, which is on that grounds now in a couple.
Do you know a guy named Strickland, Mr. Strickland? He was the director of the camp in the summer
at the Concord. Well,
I thought so.
I probably got several lashes from him from doing something over the course of the summer.
I used to go to the Pines in the Raleigh.
The Pines, the Raleigh, and Kutcher's, right? I'm sorry, last thing I'll say, I'll let you guys get on.
And give yourself a plug.
I saw Joe Frazier train and spar at Kutcher's in 75 or something. I was like,
wow,
6 years old. I'm just different world, right? Great stuff.
Kick Joe Lewis's ass. Michael, how do we find you?
Find me at michael@mfcpr.com, or, just stand out on the freeway holding a sign advertising money. I'll be there.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you guys. Have a great week. Take care.
Thanks, Michael.
Advertising money. I love that.
Yeah, now before we bring on Ronen Nissenbaum, the CEO of Dan Hotels, I do want to let everybody know, no, I am not suffering from liver failure. I may have had a drink or two. I don't know why I'm so yellow today, but I am in good health. Why? Because I'm excited for our next guest, Mr. Ronen Nissenbaum, the CEO of Dan Hotels, coming all the way from the Middle East in the incredible country of Israel, one of my favorite places in the entire world. Ronen, so great to see you, sir.
Great to be with you guys. Happy. For me, it's the evening here. We're 7 hours ahead of you.
Yes, it's absolutely great.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
One of the things that was unbelievable to me when I went to Israel for the first time is your hotels. The hotel behind me, where I'm not right now, at the Dan Panorama, just around the corner from a classic hotel, King David Hotel, which we'll talk about in a little while. It was my first entree to the Israeli hotel experience, and I was completely blown away. You guys do a terrific job over there. That's why I'm excited to talk with you.
What's the one thing that stood out about that hotel that you're so excited about? Because I haven't been there.
The food, breakfast. Like, Anthony, you think that there are buffet breakfasts here in the United States. That is nothing compared to what you will get when you go to one of Dan hotels out in Israel. Ronen, I don't know if I'm being hyperbolic here, but there must be at least 100 items on that breakfast buffet, if you're still serving it during the COVID times. I don't know what your scenario is, but back in the summer of 2017, there sure was.
That's true. That's one of the, I would say that one of the difficulties right now with the social distancing is we just have the buffet, but instead of having people taking their own food, we have the chefs behind the buffets actually serving plate by plate. It's better for portion control, especially with Israelis, but it helps with the social distancing and the hygiene.
So you know, I didn't know that you were special ops in the food and beverage industry, because you worked. I just looked at your LinkedIn profile. You worked for Eric Long at the Waldorf?
I replaced Eric Long at the Waldorf.
You replaced Eric Long at the Waldorf?
I did. He's a legend in his own time, and those were big shoes to fill. Eric, I think, was there, I don't know, 20 years or
20
15 years. I think every single GM that was there, except for one or two, were there for a very long time. I was one of the shorter ones.
Well, you closed the property, right?
I almost closed the property. I was brought in from the Plaza. I was working at the Plaza. I know you were too, Anthony. But I worked there. A funny little story about the Plaza. My uncle, Michael Schweiger, who's unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He was number 2 at the Plaza in the 70s. My brother, who is today the managing director of the Peninsula in Beverly Hills, was, I think, a rooms division director in the 90s.
Brother? Who's your brother?
Offer
Is your brother? Offer's my brother. How can he be your brother?
Oh, he's an amazing hotelier, and he was there. And then about 10 years later, in 2011, when I came back from Singapore, I was the asset manager on behalf of the owner, Isaac Chuva, and was responsible for selling that hotel to the Indian gentleman. Obviously, it's been sold again since then, but I was there, and Eric was retiring, and I got a call from Chris Nacetta to come and help them, first of all, take over from Eric, which is in itself an incredible opportunity. But it was about getting together, putting together a plan in order to sell the property, which we did 2 years later to the Chinese. But the whole idea of what we did at the Plaza, what was done at the Plaza of transforming an 800-bedroom hotel into about 130 apartments and the rest 280-room hotel, was the same idea about doing it for the Waldorf, a 1,400-room hotel that is now, the plan is for a 350-bedroom hotel. It hasn't changed. About 330 apartments.
Well, I'll tell you, we have so many parallels in our career, not only the Plaza and the Waldorf and Eric Long, and even Tishman, because Tishman did the renovation and I was working at Tishman at the time. I was working in the hotel division, not the construction division. So we have so many parallels, but no parallel greater than this. No wonder we look alike a little bit, because Ronen, you took my job, and I'll tell you why. When I was younger, Eric asked me to come in as basically his assistant, like the number 2. I was 29 years old, and he asked me to come in, and he was going to groom me to take his position. And I was like, "Why me?" And he goes, "Because you're the most resourceful person I've ever met. Stay with me, and when I leave, we'll position you." I go, "When are you leaving?" And he goes, "I don't know." I go, "Well, 2 years, 5 years?" He goes, "I don't know." And after getting to know him after 7 interviews over a period of a year, I realized he's not going anywhere. So if I would have stayed, which I wouldn't have been able to last, but if I did, I would have taken that job.
I replaced him in 2014. So
yeah, that would have been basically, I've been gone a long time before 2014. But he was fascinating in the sense, his reputation is, he has 2 reputations, right? One, you work for him, you don't want to work for anybody else. And the other reputation is you work for him, you want to work for anybody else, right? I'm on the side of I work for him, I don't want to work for anyone else. Because like at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, you can call him, he'll answer his phone.
That's true. He lived in the property as I did, with the apartment there, and it was a 7 days a week, 24/7 job. It's a big property. It had 1,400 employees, complicated with multiple F&B.
Union, heavy union.
Heavy union, and it was an amazing property. And believe me, in almost every conversation I have with friends and with colleagues in the industry, almost everybody went through the Waldorf. You have a Waldorf story with everybody.
Yeah.
Hundreds of GMs that are out there today that were groomed and prepared either by Eric Long or his predecessors.
And I never worked there. And even me, I've never worked there, but he was my mentor. I would hang out with him at least twice a year that he would buy me coffee or a drink. And we would have this, okay, Anthony Melchiori needs some advice. And he's given me some advice that's amazing. And I will tell you about the one advice he gave me, I didn't take because he's a lot more extreme person than I am. And I was just like, I can't do that. He's fascinating individual. And was John Doherty the chef there while you were there, or he's gone already?
He was gone.
Okay.
He was gone. It was David that was in charge, and I think he's now a GM with Fairmont somewhere, but he was the chef of the property at the time. But amazing people that were working there. We had a great management trainee program there. We had about 20 or 30 people working there. A lot of people out of Cornell, a lot of people out of the other great universities.
My partner and my best friend, Jeremy Pinkerton, she worked there as the revenue manager. And when I was starting to think about what should be my partner, I called Eric and I was like, listen, she worked with me at the West and I really like her. And he was beyond complimentary. It's like, listen, it's like if you're on a Tom Brady team, you're special, right? Apparently now, whether you like him or don't like him, if he's not the GOAT, you should just not ever talk about football.
No,
I think Eric's the GOAT.
He's a legend.
Eric's the GOAT.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm wondering, I'm excited that I get to speak again during this. Now that you're a friend, I think it's going to be awfully challenging. But Ronen, how many hotels are in Dan Hotels? Could you just give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of what your impact is in the Israeli hotel market, please?
Absolutely. But before that, I'll just tell you what's written on your shirt. Yes. Your shirt is actually Team Israel.
Yes. Okay.
So
yeah.
It is the Team Israel. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Coming at you straight from the Holy Land. We are about 3 years ago when I joined here. The marching orders were really to develop the company. It's a 72-year-old company owned by. It's a publicly traded company, but the majority of it is owned by the Fetterman family. Amazing. I guess I had to reach the end of my career to work with probably the best family I've ever had to deal with. And they've owned their properties. They buy and they keep them, and they've slowly developed them. And when I arrived here, we were 13 hotels. We had the fourth largest catering company in Israel. We have the airport lounges that we manage, and we have a gastronomical hotel school. Today, 3 years later, we're now 20 hotels. Awesome. So we've added 7 hotels. We're now the second largest catering company in Israel. And that's for the military, for the defense forces, for HP, for large defense contractors. So we do the catering for them. Unfortunately, the lounges at the airport are missing some of our passengers that are not coming around in the last year.
Yeah.
And the gastronomical hotel school. So an interesting company. Family, very family orientated, a fantastic culture.
Yeah, it certainly is. All right, so
is that the first time, if I can ask, is that the first time you're living in Israel?
No. I'll give you a 3-minute about myself. I was born in Israel, so I know I don't sound Israeli. I can put it on though. I want to tell you that everything is very good here in Israel. That's a typical Israeli. But I was born here. My father worked for the airlines. I moved to Canada. I spent 8 years in Toronto and Montreal. Moved back to Israel, high school and military service, 3 years in the Air Force. Then Switzerland for 5 years. London 5 years, Paris 5 years, Germany for a year, Belgium for a year, back to Israel for 4 years, then Atlanta. I made it to the States and I ran the Buckhead Intercontinental, and then I ran the United States Intercontinentals. I was with them for about 13 years in total. Left them to go to Singapore for 2 years to work with Sheldon Adelson to open up the Marina Bay Sands. Then the Plaza for 3 years. 3 years at the Waldorf, New York, and now I've been here for 3 years in Israel. That's it.
Oh my God!
3 minutes of a lifetime.
And you were in the Air Force like me, so we really are parallel.
Right.
There we go.
So
Air
Ronen,
traffic controller.
we unfortunately lost Mr. Adelson a couple of weeks ago. What is your best memory of working with him on what has become one of the most iconic hotel properties in the world?
He was a quite unique individual, incredible, detail orientated. He would know everything about the property. It was scary getting on a call with him because he would ask the right questions at the right time. It was a 2-year whirlwind. I mean, it was really a tremendous opportunity. I got there about a year before we opened the property, as it was being built up, hired 14,000 employees, and opened the property. And I don't think I'll ever do anything like that again. A $6 billion project, $2.5 billion of revenue in the first year, $1.25 billion of profit in the first year, and he was just on top of everything, incredibly accurate at his age. I mean, I know he passed away now in his late 80s, but I was working with him in his late 70s, and he was faster, more energetic, more intelligent than most people I've met in my life.
Wow. And you said something, and it really resonated with me, because you said I was scared to get on the phone with him. And I understand that feeling, because those are the owners that, for me, I'll just speak for me, that I enjoyed the least when I worked for them, but I learned the most.
Yes, absolutely. There were scary moments with him. I would walk the property with him, and if it reminded me a little bit of Leona Helmsley. If somebody walked the wrong way, talked the wrong way, did something wrong, it was done. He was a very action orientated, took decisions immediately. And you're scratching your head. You said, how could you take that decision? But it was I don't want to say one-man show, because we were tens of thousands of employees, but the main decisions always rested.
Well, he is reminiscent of an Eric Long, because Eric Long taught me what Mr. Adelson probably preached as well, was every hotel is a boutique hotel. Every hotel is a small hotel, whether it's 3,000 rooms, 20,000 rooms, or 50 rooms. Every hotel, if you're paying attention to details, could be run like a small hotel. I remember being in a lobby waiting for Mr. Long, and he came in and he said, "I'll be right with you." And as he turned around, he went to the line, and I followed him like a little puppy dog. I wanted to hear what he was talking about, right? And he knew who was supposed to be on break. He wanted to know why the line was so long, and he wanted to know why the manager so-and-so wasn't at the front desk. And he made sure everybody got iced tea for the people waiting in line, because there was a long line. He knew who was supposed to be on break at the front desk.
It's incredible. Not many people like that around.
I was like, that's you can't run those kind of properties, because you go into Mr. Adelson's properties, and you cannot find anything. Yeah. I mean, I very rarely find anything that's not running well.
Yeah.
If ever.
Yeah. I'd like to think that he makes great decisions on hiring people.
Yeah, of course, that's what it comes down to. But that's exactly what it comes down to. It comes down to, he'll bring you around, scare the living crap out of you, and then you go, and in a professional way, in an enthusiastic way, you teach your team how to do that. Because Absolutely. If you had Mr. Adelson, you had 20 Mr. Adelsons running around, you wouldn't have a company.
No. It takes somebody like him with his personality and his risk appetite. I mean, the guy would take risky decisions, but 9 times out of 10 he'd be right. So it's interesting watching and learning from entrepreneurs like him.
Right.
Did that teach you to take risks, at least calculated risks? How does that change your career?
Absolutely. I think I have a kind of a strange career, and it was accentuated as well. Just before I went to work for him. I had spent the longest period I've spent with the company is with Intercontinental, and I spent 13 years with them. And then I did, Anthony, you mentioned that one of your dreams is to go do an MBA. That was mine as well. Another one of those things that we have in common. And in 2007, while I was working as regional for Intercontinental, I went to do my MBA at Emory. And I did it while working. At that time, it was you go in, you do a week, and then for 2 months you do online, and then you come back for a week, and that for 2 years. And I think that opened my mind up and got job offers that had nothing to do with the hotel business. It was, do you want to come run a university? Do you want to come run a hospital? Senior living? Because the skills that we have in the hotel business as innkeepers is really about serving people, as servile mentality. And I think that a lot of companies outside the hospitality business are searching for individuals that have that innate skill set. And if you can add to that the business acumen, and believe me, I sitting in some of the meetings with the CEO of Citibank and the CEO of these banks, I felt a little bit inept with the language, with the jargon necessary in order to understand whether it's balance sheet issues, whether it's corporate financing and ROIs and IRRs. And right. The MBA was really helpful in kind of targeting that. And right when I finished was when I had the opportunity to join them in Las Vegas Sands, which took me to a casino world, totally different, and learned the casino language. And from there, moved into asset management. From there, moved in, so it really, I think, to your point, it's a long answer to your short question. I truly believe that you need to take those opportunities when they're handed to you. I think you have to push the outside of the envelope, go to where you're uncomfortable, know that you may not have what it takes, but give it everything you've got. And with all the experience you have, I think it's a mistake to stay comfy and not to take those opportunities. You make those opportunities happen, but when they happen, you've got to take those risks, calculated, thoughtful, concise, not haphazard, but you've got to take those risks if you want to move up the ladder.
No, I think what you just said is critical. Not haphazard, calculated risk. I'm a calculated risk. I don't jump out of airplanes, but I'll race cars around the track because I'm in charge of the car. I'm not in charge of my parachute. So I agree with you. And I didn't get an MBA, but I got my MBA by going to I call it MBA, being the first vice president of asset management for Tishman. And you want to be uncomfortable. You want to get your butt kicked. I never felt so, and I'm going to say the word, I never felt so stupid in my life. I felt like I was in fourth grade again and people were making fun of me. I felt like I got left back in first grade again. I was so like I was drowning. I've never had a job where I walked in and I was 40. I was a pretty well-known hotelier in New York City. I've turned around some great hotels. And I thought I was pretty smart. And then I wasn't. And it was the greatest lesson I learned, and I became better. I wouldn't say I'm the best asset manager, but I understood, EBITDA and all the other things that we talked about, and to a real granular degree. And LIBOR, I didn't know what LIBOR was. I was like, holy shit, now I know what LIBOR is. And so you probably just missed me, but we were opening in the Intercontinental in Times Square. Were you on the team at that point, or were you gone already?
I was just as you were about to open. While it was being opened, I was still with Intercon, but I had left to Singapore, and then the property opened up in Times Square, the Times Square property.
And the first general manager that we hired, Drew Schlesinger, was my first general manager in New York City. And here I am, the I wasn't the asset manager of that hotel, but I was like kind of as an asset manager, and he was the general manager. And he was there for 6 months. He opened it.
I know who replaced him. I remember. I
don't remember who replaced him.
Yeah, I knew one of the GMs. Andrew Gajari was there for a few years, but prior to Andrew, I'm not sure who it was. But there were a few GMs. Listen, Tishman as an asset manager was tough. Without Intercontinental, you stood there and you knew you were up against people that really understood the business. And the great stuff about an asset manager that has multiple brands is that the comparison, the benchmarking. You bring the great ideas from Marriott, and you bring the great ideas from Hilton, and you put their feet under the fire. You put fire under their feet and say, "Hey, you do better."
What was hard for me, the learning wasn't the transition that hurt the most. It was, I'm an operator, so I like operators. If a general manager tells me something, I empathize with them. I understand what they're saying. And as an asset manager, it's not good or bad. It's just like, okay, leave the emotion outside the door. It is or it isn't. And it was hard for me to get around the is or isn't.
I think the combination of that makes you, at being an ex-operator and then having the Tishman experience, makes you probably a better asset manager than most Tishman people.
Listen, I think at this point I can compete with anyone. So yeah, and that was a big part. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I learned.
Yeah.
Excellent. Just for folks watching, LIBOR stands for the London Interbank Offered Rate. It's a benchmark interest rate where global banks lend to each other and stuff.
Are you reading that, or do you know that?
Oh, I totally read it to make sure I got it right. I vaguely understood what it was, but I certainly don't want to, pretend that I do know absolutely everything. All right, Ronen, we got some questions here. I feel like we could just talk all day and stuff like that, but I'm curious as to what's going on right now. Just 2 hours ago, I saw reports that your Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, was talking about stopping all international travel again for a week as a little bit of a pause. So the first question that we have is kind of, what type of strategies are you using to sell rooms towards the future, right? I know you have a strong vaccination policy, and you're starting to receive tourism probably, soon enough from places. So what is it maybe the general state of things right now in your country, and how are you approaching them?
It is as complicated and difficult as it is elsewhere in the world. I would tell you that Israel altogether is a complicated little country. We're going through our fourth elections in a 2-year span. You're absolutely right. Today they announced here that the airport will be shutting down completely as of tomorrow morning for a week to stop the mutations from arriving in Israel. Even though Israel is doing incredibly well, it's a dichotomy. On one side, we've closed down. This is the third closure that we've had of the country for a matter of a month and a half, and we've been able to keep it under control. Just to give you kind of a sense of the size, if there's 100 million people that got sick in the world and about 2 million people that died around the world, America was 25 million and about 426,000 people that died. Israel has 600,000 people that got sick and about 4,400 people that died. These are still big numbers. Even if you multiply Israel by 35, which is the size of the United States, 35 times larger, we're about 9 million, America 350, so I'm kind of approximating it. What we've done well is keep the mortality rate low. We've taken care of the elderly a little bit more, and we're at 0.7% mortality rate, as opposed to 1.7 with America and about 2% worldwide. We've vaccinated. We're number one in the world with the speed of vaccination. We vaccinated almost 3 million people here out of a 9 million population. 1 million of those 3 million have had already the second vaccination, the Pfizer second vaccination. So by the end of March, to give you kind of a status quo, we believe that we'll have herd mentality where we'll have the majority out of 9 million, about 7 million are people that are above the age of 17. And those are the ones that we need to take care of. By the end of March, we should be done. But that's not enough. That will only take care of Israel and the internal tourism, the drive-to markets that we have here, which represent about 50% of the business that stays in the hotel. In some areas, it's 90%, but in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, it represents only 20 or 30% of the business.
Really?
So until the rest of the world picks up, until they vaccinate, until there's a program between countries where those that have a green passport of, you've been vaccinated or you've had COVID and now you're immune, hopefully, or you take a test 72 hours before, until there's this kind of international program that allows people to travel without having to quarantine, which has just been announced in the United States, 7-day quarantine, 10-day quarantine, the Biden administration has announced. I think that the international travel is not something we can count on. And I'm getting finally to your question. I think that I can't count on any international business till March, April of this year. which is kind of our Passover and Easter period. We're thinking that the second part of the year, the second half of the year, we'll start to see business coming to Israel. But as Israel does represent 50% of the room nights, local tourism, our focus now for the next 6 months is obviously on the Israeli market, and how do we go to the Israeli market with new technology, an app that allows you to do what I've seen already done in other places: reserve, check in, check out, order your food, all touchless, all with social distancing, and be able to at least survive the next 6 months as we have survived for the past 9-10 months through this period. And then when you're talking about the foreign business, most of our group business, so we have a lot of pilgrim business that comes to Israel, a lot of Jewish group business that comes to Israel. That business is basically everything that's been in 2019, anything that at the end of that 19, that when they started to cancel, all the business that we had in 2020 has basically been delayed to 2021, end of 21 and 22. So we've just moved that business over. And obviously the other individual business, the FIT business, that's relatively short term. That's 3-4 months out at most. And we'll deal with that when we get to a situation where we see that we have a system by which people will feel comfortable, safe, and secure to travel. And then we'll go to the market with our product.
Right.
Wow. That was a lot of detailed information, and that's why you've been very successful, and that's why you probably were a good asset manager. You know the numbers, the percentages, the overall, how everything like that. I'm like, you can drop the mic and leave now. That was perfect.
Because we have more questions for you.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
so
please go ahead.
here in the United States, we talk an awful lot about that pent-up demand. That we think that all of a sudden everybody's going to start traveling again. Are you feeling that way with travel to Israel or within Israel?
We have a good example. After the first closure back in April and May of 2020, we reopened the hotels after 2.5 months. And July and August are the busy season for the Israeli internal tourism. And Eilat, which is a southern city on the Red Sea, is kind of our go-to. It's like you're Miami or you're Mexico or, going to the beaches. And the example for the pent-up demand is our 2019 results in August. We have 3 hotels in Eilat, a total of almost 1,000 rooms down there in 3 properties, was the record year in 2019. Now, 2020, we were 3 months or 2 months after the reopening, and about 6 months into the pandemic. Our August was the best August we've ever had. It was better than our record of 2019. What I'm trying to say is that there is pent-up demand. When you're locked up, as we were in Israel, for 3 closures, and you're not able to travel internationally, there is a dire desire to travel and to get out and to go back to some kind of normality. And we experienced that in August, where we didn't have space in our hotels. We were at higher occupancies, at higher average rates than we were previously. Nice from an asset manager perspective, because we went through a closure and we had everybody on furlough. We were a lot more efficient. So our profitability in August, not to shout out too loud because I don't want the market to know, was exceptional. So we will come out of this a lot stronger, a lot leaner, a lot more efficient. We would have learned from this. And I think that the pent-up demand locally is going to be strong, but it's going to be specific to seasonality. It's not going to happen in January, February when nobody goes to Eilat. And I think it'll be the same thing for the international travel. I think people that have wanted to come to Israel for the last year and have put it off will want to come back here. The pilgrims that are, the church leader is telling them, you've got to go see where Christ was born and where Christ was walking on the water in Bethlehem and Nazareth. All that is not going away. It's going to come back.
Right.
So I believe the pent-up demand, we're not going to have a great 21. We're not going to have a fantastic 22. But I think 23 and 24 are going to go back to where we were in 19, all things being equal, that we don't go through some kind of crazy mutations and the situation is going to get worse. If the vaccines work, I think that all those predictions of 23 and 24 will come to
Yeah,
reality.
I couldn't even fathom if the mutations don't the vaccine doesn't take to the mutations. I couldn't even fathom that because that would be serious. For young, I don't think about me. I think about the young people, and it would be really a hard hit for them. So with that, you said something that will be more efficient, and we all know what more efficient means. More efficient means we're going to do more with less. So if I'm a young entrepreneur, I'm a Ronen or an Anthony coming up, and you and I, the reason we're successful is not only that I think we're relatively smart, but we work hard than everybody else. You outwork everyone. I outwork everyone. So if I'm a kid with all that energy and I just want a job, I just want to work. Like we had opportunities to get all of our energy out because when we were given a job, we're like, oh my God, I didn't expect to work this hard. I was just kidding, right? So we were able to take all of that energy and just dump it into our career. What do you tell kids today?
I'm not pessimistic about the future. Think about it this way: when you look at the supply cycle, and you look at the quantity of rooms and the quantity of hotels that were in the supply cycle prior to the event and are still in there, there's 1 to 2% growth in new hotels and new properties going out there. Even if a hotel reduces by a few percentage points, if you have 200 employees and you go down to 190 or 180, those 20 employees will be taken easily up by the additional hotels that will be coming up. So I'm not worried about the future. I think that the jobs will come back. We're not talking about moving from 200 employees to 100 employees.
Right.
There are certain jobs that, even with the technology that Michael was talking about, that's going to take some time to actually get into the hotels, be adopted by the hotels. I think we're using technology to reduce the amount of the labor that is necessary to do the mundane job, not the service, the face-to-face, but the mundane jobs that are necessary in the property. I see a tremendous future. I have one son, my eldest son, that has gone to study hotels in Switzerland. I have my second son who's finishing Emory now that wants to be in the hotel business. So I am super excited about the future. I think there's so much to do. The business is changing. When I was growing up, you were more of an ambassador, an F&B specialist. You're far more operational. I think today a general manager is a business manager as well as an operator, and those that can combine those soft human skills, the EQ with the IQ, and be able to bring those two things together. It's such a great job. I look at my career and I say I worked in Singapore, I worked in all over Europe, I worked in North America. I mean, what a fantastic life we have. And I love going to universities and talking and trying to tell people about what a great profession we've chosen. If you love the profession, it's not a job. It's a hobby. It's fun.
I don't know where else you could have a better career. I really don't. I mean, my career, it's taken me to 40. I was in the Air Force, but it took my TV career to take me to 48 states and 50 countries. So it just allowed me everything. It gave me everything, this industry. And I did it in a very, you did it in an abnormal way because most people don't have your career. I mean, you have an exceptional, extraordinary career. You're one of very few of that had your career. And that says a lot about you. I'm one of probably that's it. There's nobody else that has traveled around the world showing the world hotels. And so the industry gave us this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love it. And I think that would be my advice to the youngsters, whether you're in the hotels or you're not in hotels. Apologies, there's a phone going here. Is really
try 3 rings.
Yeah, in my room. No, but I would tell them, it's not easy because when you're 18, 19, 20 and you're not sure about what you want to do in your life. And when my son came to me and said, listen, Dad, I want to do, even though he complained, most of as he was growing up, by me moving him from London to Paris to Berlin to Israel to Atlanta to Singapore, all I got was grief for most of my life. But then when he comes to me at the age of 18 and says, Dad, I want to go into the hotels, I said, excuse me,
Yeah.
You want to do the same thing that I did? Are you
Right.
sure you're that's the same guy?
But the
So
good news is, even if you stayed in small town America and never moved, you would still get grief. So whether you got grief for moving or you got grief for staying, I have 3 daughters. No matter what I did, I got grief, so it doesn't matter.
That's a
and
really
I think that the first thing I told my son when he was 18, I said, you know what? I'm not going to send you to Switzerland or to Cornell or to FIU or to any of the great universities. You got to go work for about a year. I want you to experience it. I want to see that you love what the hotels are, the young feeling in it, the crazy social, the crazy work hours. First, see that it really hits something inside, and if you love what you do, you're going to be good at it, and you're going to enjoy it, and it's not going to be a job. And my advice to the youngsters is really try to find something that you really enjoy doing, and then it's fun, it's enjoyable. You'll probably be good at it, and move forward. The difficult thing is trying to find that one thing that makes you happy.
And the reason that's so hard is because you and I could sit for days and talk about our experiences. At the end of the day, it's hard. It is hard when you're sitting with Mr. Adelson or Eric Long and Blackstone, and there's billions, literally billions of dollars at risk, reputations at risk, families at risk. You have everything at risk. And you're the guy that the banks are looking at, the owners are looking at, the unions looking at, the housekeepers looking at, everybody's looking at you. So if you don't love that pressure, if you don't love coming to work and knowing that you're the right person to move them all forward to one great family, don't be in this business. Like if you want to do it at a high level, because it's hard. And if you really love it, it's not as hard.
And I'd add one more thing to what you said previously, and I think it's a very insightful, I think, for the youngsters. There are going to be ups and downs, and not only the hard work. I worked for some incredibly difficult people that I think this is a cliche, but they say you learn a lot more from people, really bad managers, than you do from good ones.
Sure.
And I learned of what not to do and how not to act from executives and managers and owners. I learned a lot more from them. And those, when you're going through that period, it is disaster. You don't sleep at night. You have nightmares. You wake up with your belly turning around. But a year or 2 years after that job, as you said, Anthony, you come out so much stronger. You become more resilient. You're thick. Your skin is thicker, and you can handle the crises. I mean, we've been through so many. I mean, I think we're more or less the same age. We've been through a lot of crises, whether it's 9/11 and whether it's the 2008, 2007, and the first Iraq War, the second Iraq War when I was here. These are tremendous amount of crises that demand sometimes things that you don't know what to do with. And if you can get yourself through that, because they all end. Right. All of these crises end. There's always, the sun always comes up the next day. And the same thing with this crisis. It'll get better. Get through it. It makes you stronger. The good experiences and the bad experiences teach you even more.
And I think this experience of the pandemic has taken my children, your children, 18, 19, 20-year-old children, Glenn's children who are coming up are a little bit younger, that it's given them that. It's given them that this will make them stronger because they have no choice. This will give them that, wait a second, going to the mall with my friends to have a Starbucks and getting in the car to go see the sunset is a thing. Like, I can't do that. Like, I have to wear a mask. Wait a second. I have to sit in the garage away from my friend because my dad made a movie theater with a mask on to watch a movie. Wait, this is a thing? So that stuff right now, I don't think are absorbing how strong these young people will be. Yes, they have the technology, and yes, they can close their room and be there for 3 days in quarantine and not complain, which was fascinating when my daughter was in there for 3 days quarantine, or actually 10 days, and she'd never complained. But at the end of the day, this will make us stronger. And at this point, in our career, when they give us a crisis, we're like, okay, hold my beer, I'll be right back. And that's the great thing about living through it. But when you're living through it, man, it's hard. And if you don't love it, and that is the key, like I couldn't imagine, like right now, everybody knows I've been talking about a lot. There's a project I'm working on in California, big project, at least for me, big, not your big, but my big. And it's fascinating to me. I'm more enthused about this project than I am about anything. And I have a lot of projects going on. So it's just when you love what you do and you know you can put your fingerprint on a hotel, it's like putting your fingerprint on your child. It's like it's going to be there for a long time.
Absolutely. I think there's one saying that I remember that really kind of puts the dot on the I, that crosses the T. The only real failure is failing to fail.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that. It really, that if you didn't fail, you haven't made it in life. You have to fail. You have to get up, and you have to show that you can get. If you haven't failed before, you're not a complete manager.
Right, and the person that failed, that didn't get up and do better, that's the failure, not the failure of what knocked you down. It's the failure of not getting up. My friend Chris Romulo has a great saying, get knocked down seven, get knocked down seven, get up eight. And he has that on shirts. I have a bunch of shirts that say that. He's a Muay Thai fighter. And it's true. You always got to get up one more time than you fall.
It is a mindset. It's a conscious mindset. 100% mindset of, half glass full, positive attitude. Nothing can get you down. Even if inside you're feeling it, on the outside as a leader, you're always showing the positive, you're shining the light on the next objective, and you can't let anything let you down. And
Glenn and I talk about it all the time. When this pandemic has been painful for all of us. I mean, and if you haven't had a bad day, and I've had a couple more bad days than I usually do. I always say to my children, I have one bad day a year, and that's the day that I disappear. And because I just want to go deal with what I'm dealing with. And during the pandemic, I probably had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 bad days. And I typically don't have those kind of days. So this will make us all stronger. And I think that that's another message we have to get out to young people, or just people in general, is it's okay. Like, if you don't feel the pain and if you don't feel lost sometimes during this, then you're not normal.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
I think Glenn's still here. Glenn, how are you?
I am. I've been enjoying watching the show today. I don't have to work as hard. One quick question for Michael Weinberg. Any plans to bring Dan Hotel brand to the United States of America?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah?
Absolutely. We're one of as I said, the marching orders when I arrived 3 years ago was to develop the Dan chain. We own all our hotels. Mm-hmm. We own the brands, and we manage all our properties. So we're kind of a one-stop shop. And we are just now getting into management agreements. That's how we've got 2 management agreements already, and we're looking at the opportunities that obviously will arise because of COVID.
Would you partner? Would you partner with a deal?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So make sure you give me your cell number. You may get a call from me. You may get a call from me.
Give Anthony and us your cell phone.
We either will purchase a property, and the nice part is we have the King David, which is one of the best hotels in the Middle East.
I know. I definitely want to show that. I definitely want to show that. And just
so that's the luxury, $1,000 a night rate kind of hotel. We have the Dan properties. We have the Dan Panorama, which are your kind of Hiltons. The 600 bedroom conference hotels. We have boutique hotels. We have kind of the next generation. We call it Link Hotel and Hub, where it's kind of your Citizen M / Generator hotel. Wow. So we've got all the brands. We're really from 2-star to 5-star, and we manage. So we're looking either to purchase and do ourselves and manage and brand it, or we're looking to partner with somebody in the United States. We're predominantly looking at on the East Coast, New York, Florida. It's a little bit further for us to fly out to Los Angeles, so it's got to be something significant for us to go out there.
But I may have something significant for you, my friend. Let's send me your cell number. It may be good timing.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you one last question, and I'll shut up, Glenn. I promise. Of all your properties, it doesn't have to be the company you work in now. Just every place you've worked in the world, and you've had a fascinating career, and I hope you're writing a book. Where would you want to have breakfast? What room? What hotel? What lounge? Whatever. And where would you want to have dinner? Right now, where would you? And they don't have to be in the same country, the same hotel.
I'm going to say Israel at the King David breakfast, just because the view from the King David over on the old city, and to see the old Jerusalem and to see Al-Aqsa. It's kind of you look at history, you look at the Bible when you're sitting at the patio having this amazing breakfast that Glenn is talked about. 15 different white cheeses and 15 different yellow cheeses and 10 salads and halva and the Arabic and Mediterranean. It's just an amazing breakfast. So the breakfast, 100% would be in Israel at the King David, overlooking the old city. And I would say dinner probably Marina Bay Sands on the 47th floor, on the restaurant where they have the best foie gras dumplings that I've ever eaten. So absolutely, Marina Bay Sands dinner, breakfast in King David.
That's
So,
great.
I do want to show off the King David Hotel, Dave, if you could bring that up real quick. Now, my wife lived in Israel for a couple of years when she was in high school, and they spent a lot of time at the King David Hotel. That was her favorite hotel. We stopped by there a few times when we were there. It's absolutely amazing. Now, the King David Hotel actually served as a location for the British administrative headquarters before it became the King David Hotel. It's super historic. It suffered terrorist attacks. It's had lots of world leaders. Maybe you could just talk about the significance real quick about this hotel to the history of Israel.
Well, it's not the first hotel that the Dan Hotel started with. It was actually where I'm sitting at the Dan Tel Aviv. But the King David it's where history has been made. Wow. All the kings that have come to Israel, every single president of the United States, all the different prime ministers and presidents, that's the go-to hotel. That's where everybody stays. That's where you go to be seen. That's where you go to meet with people. It has probably the most beautiful grounds in Jerusalem. In the center of Jerusalem, we have, as you can see there, big pool and big garden area. It's just a magnificent, it's a bucket list hotel. You cannot die before you go there.
Well, it's going on my bucket list. I never thought about it, but it will never, ever not be on my, it's on top of my bucket list.
By the way, Anthony, I did watch your show because I love your show, by the way.
Thank you.
I did watch your show, I think it was last week with Jerry and Zarella.
Oh.
And that's another one there where we crossed also at the Plaza. I crossed with Jerry when I met him there, and then at Forbes. And I was watching him, and the last time I saw Jerry, we had a drink at the bar at the King David.
That's great. Wow. Innkeeper, I'm like, he knows Jerry and Zarella.
You know what, Ronen, you can fill up a room. I think I can fill up a room. Glenn has filled up plenty of rooms. I think we're in the bleacher seats when it comes to Jerry.
Yeah, he's another one of a kind. Absolutely, not. It's hard. It's hard because when you never want to follow somebody like that, because he just as I think you said that, I think he just sucks the air out of a room. Absolutely. He walks around. So I obviously I don't know him as well as you do. I only met him when I was at the Plaza, but he is a personality. He's a workaholic. He's exactly what you said.
And he's from my hood. He's from Sheepshead Bay, Bensonhurst Bay Ridge. He's from my hood. Me and him had the same busboy job when we were kids. He's a little older than me, but like if I guarantee you, if we were the same age, me and Jerry and Zarella would have been best friends, and we would have came up in this career together. And I'd probably be living with him in Saudi Arabia somewhere.
By the way, I think that is a mark of a great leader. Jerry is one of them. The way he connects with everybody, anybody he meets feels almost like you feel about him and I feel about him. And I had somebody else like that with IHG, Steve Porter. God, rest his soul. God. He was one of the most amazing leaders.
I never met him, but everybody talks about him.
Steve Porter was the president of IHG America. Is an absolutely incredible personality who unfortunately succumbed. I think it was brain cancer.
And those are the type of people that remind me that they make a mark on you. And I strive in my career, if you think about what I want to leave as a legacy, is really the way they connect with people, the way they've touched people in their life, whether it is to help them, develop them, get to a job, find an opportunity. But the time they take and the way you feel when you're with them. I remember, you've met a lot of presidents as well. Somebody talked to me about it. I welcomed Clinton at Intercontinental in Tel Aviv once, and for that, my wife and I, Karen, we were sitting there. She's British, and we're talking to Clinton, and I could see that there was nothing around us. The world, that world was just me, him, and and my wife at that second. And some people have that capability of making you feel the most important thing in the world at the time that they're talking to you. Jerry has that. Steve has that. Clinton has that. So I think that's a great leadership quality, to be able to have that EQ sense, to be able to focus in on the person that you're talking to, and to make them feel that you're the only thing, that they're the only thing that is available in your time span. There's no other bites available in your mind. They're fully engaged in the conversation with you.
Yeah, and that is almost, with everything swirling in our heads, running properties and businesses and families. That's the superpower.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yep. Ronen, thank you so much for being here. Please give us a great plug for yourself and Dan Hotels.
And you can't come back unless I get your cell number. So
Absolutely.
give it to me in the private chat.
I will, Anthony. First of all, Anthony and Glenn, a pleasure. I love watching you. It's fun. It's humorous. It's very, very insightful, and I enjoy the people that you bring on. So I was surprised when you asked me. So thank you for that. I think the plug for the Dan Hotel is that bucket list. If and when you're ever dreaming of coming to Israel, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, I think you've got to put it on your bucket list. It's an incredible place. I've lived all over the world. There is quite literally nothing like Israel, and the people, the food, the history, the archaeology, the ski resort and the beach resort, we've got it all here. And you've got to come over.
Well,
and if you come,
some of my best friends that live in my neighborhood are from Israel, and they go to Israel all the time. So they now got me. Matter of fact, give me your cell number, because I have hoteliers that when they're ready to go to Israel, they're from Israel or their family's from Israel. I have a kid that's lights out. So one day when he's ready to go to Israel, I will make sure you guys meet. He is a lights out. He's going to be you or me or an Eric Long one day.
I'd be happy to, and I will give you my details, and be happy to be the go-between between anybody that wants to come. I'll be happy to take care of the reservations.
And he doesn't ask for 10% of travel agent commissions.
Or 15 for the OTAs or something like that.
All right, I got to go too.
We really appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Ronen, an honor. What a wow. I love this, man. I love when you bring people on I don't know, and I'm floored. I just love that guy. And his brother and I are very good friends. So it's amazing.
The Peninsula Beverly Hills, I remember the first time we went to the Forbes Travel Guide event, you're like, we have to go over there. It's my favorite hotel. Really brings things full circle. And listen, if you've never thought about going to Israel before, exactly what Mr. Nissenbaum said. It is the most incredible place. You don't have to be religious to enjoy it. It is so steeped with global history, it will freak you out. I went an archaeological dig once and was pulling out shards of pottery that were in the ground before Jesus Christ was born. So that is how cool this country is.
You know what? I can't wait to get there, but unfortunately right now I've got to fly. So let's end the show, buddy.
All right. I just want to say one thing before you've got to go. I want to say rest in peace to Larry King. Larry King was an incredible broadcaster and somebody that inspired me big time when I was just a young guy. When I was in my teen years, I used to listen to him overnight radio. I learned to communicate from a lot of that. I learned how to listen. I learned how to interview. So God bless Larry King. You ready to wrap this up?
Let's go, buddy.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another great show. Remember, you've only got one life, so blaze on. And
I met Larry King too. I loved him. Be kind to yourself.
all right, guys. See you tomorrow.